An embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment. So, and do you know what? I cannot believe that I'm actually reading this. Do you know what? I've always been very, very supportive of our board. I've always commended our board and what we stand for as a football club, and in the past couple of years and what we've done. I can't. This decision absolutely stinks, and um, I, I'm just absolutely dumbfounded. So, as you will all know, there has been a deal on the board, on the table, that is a £900 million deal for the EFL, um, and 10 Premier League clubs shot it down. Now, I'm going to read through those clubs in a minute, but do keep in mind these teams, top flight teams, are considering legal action if forced to pay the settlement. Um, do you know what? I think this is an absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace. There is no other word for it. And 10 sides, like I say, have tried ditching this deal. Now, this is, I'm going to, say this hasn't been announced by AFC Bournemouth. Um, you know, and of course, it is part. I'll put the source in the description as well, but it is from the Daily Mail. And let's be honest, this sort of thing, the Daily Mail are probably going to make sure that they get right to avoid any issues themselves. But the source is in the description, like I say. So it says the Mail Sport understands that the clubs that actually rejected and are against this deal are as follows: Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool, West Ham United, Aston Villa, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, and AFC Bournemouth. Let that sink in. We're one of the 10 sides who have voted against this deal. Now, this deal, keep in mind, is to help clubs at the bottom of the pyramid. Teams like, let's throw out there, Sutton United, Harrogate Town, teams who are struggling to make the league a closer place. Richard Masters and EFL at the moment have declined to comment. Richard Masters, personally, for his situation at Everton, should be, let's be honest, he should be dismissed. But let's be honest, he could do the decent thing and resign. But I am disappointed. Well, no, more than disappointed, embarrassed, disgusted that we are on that list. And you might be thinking, well, he's taking it, Can I just remind everybody that this football club in 2008 had bailiffs at the door? They were taking stock from the club shop. They were putting locks on the doors. Jeff Mostyn had to keep paying to keep the club afloat. The only time this club has been, you know, effectively ran financially well is from the point where Eddie Mitchell took it on. Um, you know, I don't blame people before that. Some people before that, they just didn't have the money. But at the same time, you've got to think this club come from minus 17. Now, in the minus 17 year, I'll tell you what, let's put ourselves back in that frame. We're on minus 17. We're out at the bottom of League Two. We could be going into the National League. We could, if we are relegated, go out of business. And then some 10 Premier League sides decide that they're going to vote against a financial package which could effectively save our football club. You know, the people who are making these decisions now have absolutely no idea. That shows they've got absolutely no idea about where this football club has come from. And if they do, it is just pure greed at this point. You know, I was stunned when I saw us on there. I expected Man City and Man United on there. They're not on there. They're not on there. They're not on this list. You know, I expected Liverpool. I expected Arsenal. I expected Chelsea. But I didn't expect us. And it is an absolute embarrassment to our fan base who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, who have been through Winter Gardens, minus 17. The club was on its knees. What we would have done at that point for a bit of a bailout from the Premier League. It was pittance back at that time. Money's gone through the roof. So I guess it is all, it is all probably in line. But at the same time, what we would have done for that assistance, locking the doors. This is a solution to stop clubs going into financial difficulty like Bury. Don't get me wrong, the EFL's not perfect. They need to sort themselves out. But making the Premier League a closed shop is not the way forwards. Who's to say we are a club who could very well get relegated from the Premier League at some point over the next 5 years? Let's be honest, it probably will happen. And there we are voting against something which A is going to make it more difficult for us in the future, but B, isn't going to make it a level playing field. You know, football, I'm not being funny here, but if we was to go down into the championship and we didn't, we underperformed, we deserve to be in the championship. It's not all about money. Now teams, that go down could buy their way because I'm just dumbfounded. You know, this was a great scheme. 900 million going back into the grassroots of the game, to help those clubs, that have got small capacities, who are living, you know, bread to mouth every single season, like we did when we had a three-sided ground. Yeah, we've got four-sided ground now. We're lucky. We've got new owners. But this decision, I'm sorry, it absolutely stinks. And yeah, the channel and I did put out, a message. And yeah, Stan Collymore, and fair play to him. Thank you to him for doing this. Did retweet it. Didn't want it to be quote tweeted or anything like that, because of course it does bring more highlight onto AFC Bournemouth. But at the same time, it needs to bring more highlight onto AFC Bournemouth because this decision absolutely stinks from where we are. Another one, Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, they've been in League One. They were in League One about, less than 20 years ago. They were on their knees. They were struggling. Marinakis has come in, taken over the club, shot them up, into the Premier League, and now they've voted against this as well. Likewise, us, we've been taken over by Bill Foley, and we voted against it. Wolverhampton Wanderers, they're another one. They were in League One at one point. West Ham were in the Championship at one point. I just, I honestly cannot believe that we have voted against it. And today, you know, it was a bit of a surprise that it come out. It's a very embarrassing day for AFC Bournemouth. Crystal Palace, that's a side. That's a side that, went into administration at one point. They were in trouble. They voted against it. You know, you've got to give. I tell you what, a lot of people say about Newcastle and Saudi owners and blah 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 blah. You've got to give them credit because they voted for this scheme. And to be honest, this scheme, which was going to pass money down into the grassroots of the game, make the football pyramid stronger in this country. They voted for that. There's no surprise that Burnley, Sheffield United, Luton have voted for it. Everton have voted for it. It's an embarrassing day. It's an absolute embarrassment. Effectively, this was, going to get the money back into grassroots. And yeah, it's just so disappointing. It's so disappointing. It says, this is quoting from the Daily Mail. Insiders have disclosed that the prospect of a business being forced to pay a rival business in the same industry, with that money being used by the rival to try and take their place in the Premier League, as unpalatable and unworkable. Well, that's the whole fucking idea of football. Teams get promoted, teams get relegated. We don't want Americanization of this sport in this country, but that's where it's going. Because at the end of the day, you know, we don't want it like the NHL or the NFL where teams can't get promoted and relegated. If we are in the bottom three, we deserve to be relegated. You know, Likewise, if we get relegated and then end up in the top two, then we deserve to get promoted. I- It's just shocking, and it's not even it's pittance really for the Premier League. Premier League's executive had put forward, and this is really, I just don't understand what's going on with football at the moment. A proposal to pay 836 million over 5 years, which might sound a lot for me and you watching this, but to be honest, for the Premier League, it's just a drop in the ocean. Because you know, even when I was out in the UAE, you know, the matches were on the TV course, they're going to pay a fortune for that. Everywhere is going to pay a fortune for that, which would come on top of the existing 110 million solidarity payments, and 40 million a year youth development funding. It should have happened. It should have happened. And Richard Masters needs to resign or get sacked, one of the two, because this shouldn't have really been a situation where it's it's so disappointing. I think it's an absolute disgrace that we voted against this. Let us know your thoughts, but embarrassed, embarrassed by my football club today, and that's a shame. It's a shame because we've got a lot to be proud of this football club for and that journey. But it seems like the people who have made this decision either A, can't remember or weren't here for the journey, or B, don't give a shit. Whatever way it is, it's wrong. Enough from me. Let us know what you think. Um, Over, out, disappointed, gutted, upset, not happy.